Hey everyone, it's Mary. Welcome back to my channel, and I cannot believe that we are already halfway through July. I mean, I'm shocked at how fast the summer is going by, but yes, we are halfway through July, so it's time for the mid-month wrap-up. And I had a really good first half of the month so far. I've read 10 books so far, but I did DNF 2. So I'm going to go through the 2 books I DNF'd first, and then we will go through all the books I read. But the funny thing is that out of the 10 books I actually read, 6 of them were for one series. So if we just want to call this the Fallen Men series by Giana Darling wrap up, we can just refer to it that way because I basically read her entire series. I read the first book and I could not put the rest of the series down. So now I have to find another series to start because, dang girl, you read the whole thing in like a half a month. Anyway, let's talk about the 2 books I DNF'd first. The very first book I DNF'd was called 12 Years Gone. I don't have the author's name written down on my notes, and I don't know why, but it was on my TBR list from the previous video, and this was a non-romance pick that I wanted to give a whirl, and I didn't care for it. This was supposed to be like a mystery thriller about this detective who is helping a family find their daughter who has been missing for 12 years, but I couldn't even get past the first couple chapters because you get introduced to Emily Tizano. This is a whole series about her, so I get why they were introducing her because it's a series of detective novels about this one detective, but it was like this whole backstory of her and all this like lamenting her life, and I'm just like, I don't care. I want to get the plot moving forward. Can we talk about the case that you're working on? So I just was really bored with it, and I just DNF'd it in like 2 chapters. I wasn't drawn into it. It's very important to me when I'm reading a book that I get sucked in quickly in the first chapter or so. And if the first chapter doesn't really suck me in, then I usually DNF because I don't care about it at that point. The second book I DNF'd is one that I actually already told you guys I thought I was probably going to DNF, and I was correct in my assumption, and that is Rush by Maya Banks. It's exactly what I thought it was going to be. So you have Gabe in the book who is her older brother's best friend, and you have Mia who was the little girl that he thought was so cute and had a crush on, but she was underage. Now she's like in her early 20s, and he's like, I really want to sleep with this chick. I got the hots for her. So he ends up meeting up with her as an adult and basically inviting her to be a part of a sex contract with him. So he's a dominant. He likes being dominant. He likes tying people up and all that 50 Shades of Grey-esque thing. He has a playroom, the whole shebang. Like, haven't we read this before? Pretty sure we have. Just saying. And he invites her to sign a sex contract. And, you know, older businessman, younger college-age girl, sex contract. Like, we've been here and done this before. And I was just like, I don't want to read you. So here's my thing. I don't mind reading a sex in a book. Like, I don't love sex scenes because the little Christian in me like blushes and has to go read the Bible for like an hour afterwards. I'm joking. I'm not that serious about it. But I don't prefer to read a lot of sex scenes. I don't mind if there's sex scenes in a book if it moves the plot forward. I want my romance to be about real life drama and problems that they have to overcome. And I'm okay with them sleeping together if it moves the plot forward. That's why I don't mind Sophie Lark, and I don't mind Giana Darling, and I don't mind reading, I don't know, who's another one? Cora Riley, for example, because the sex scenes in these books move the plot forward. They bring the relationship closer together. They are a turning point between a couple, and that is fine with me. But when the whole plot of the book is let's have a sex contract, and I'm sure there's more to it than that because it's a romance, so I'm assuming they fall in love at some point in this book. But if that's the main plot point, the whole plot point of you falling in love is having a sex contract and playing with whips and chains, I don't care about it. So I didn't finish the book. But if you love there are people who love erotica. If you love erotica, this is part of a trilogy, and it actually has pretty decent reviews online. So if this is your thing and you want to try this book out, leave me a comment. I will mail it to you happily and let you give it a whirl. But it's just not something that I love, so I did not continue the book. Alright, so now on to the books I actually read, and again, some of these are going to be sort of repetitive for you guys because I read a lot of series books, but that's okay. The very first book I read was Crow by A. Zavarelli, and I read a book from her last month that I absolutely adored, so I was really, really looking forward to reading this next book from her, especially when I heard that she had a Mafia series. I was like, hold up, y'all know I love Mafia romance, it's going down. But this one was an Irish Mafia, which, again, I haven't read very much Irish Mafia, but I didn't care for this one as much as I thought I would. I only gave this book 3 stars. So, I'll explain why, but you have Mackenzie and Lachlan. Mac, she goes by, and he goes by Locke, and the story goes that Mac goes undercover in search of her friend who went missing. Her friend got a job as like an exotic dancer / stripper type thing at one of the Mafia-owned clubs, and she goes missing. And so Mac is like, I'm pretty sure the Mafia is responsible for her missing, so she decides to go undercover at Locke's club in order to find answers as to why her friend is missing. Well, obviously, as soon as Locke sees her, he like falls in love. He's attracted to her. Well, he doesn't fall in love, but he's attracted to her, and then later falls in love with her. They start a sexual relationship first, which then turns into a romantic relationship, and so on and so forth. But I think the reason I didn't love this book was that it's a little bit more harsh, right? Like there's more violence. There's more of the Mafia world involved, which I say that because I love Cora Riley's books, but like, I don't know. I wasn't sold on the romance. It felt more like a sex relationship than a romantic relationship. So it's still a solid read, and I still gave it 3 stars. I mean, it's not a bad book, but I wasn't in love with it enough to want to continue the series. So my question is, if anybody else has read this series by her, I don't even know the name of the series, but whatever Crow is a part of, does it get better in later books? Because if it does, then I will give the next book a try. But if not, then I don't know. I don't know. I didn't love it, but I do love her writing. I've read a couple books by her so far that have been phenomenal. So I might just check out and see what else she has. Because, once you find a good author, you got to read all the books. The second book I read is called The Memory Closet by Ninie Hammon. I'm not sure how she says her name. This is not a romance. This was one of the ones from my TBR that was a non-romance pick, and I loved this book, and I was shocked that I loved it so much because I don't usually like books that aren't romance. So, this is a story of Annie Mitchell. Annie's mother has passed away, and she's going back to take care of her grandmother who has, like, dementia or Alzheimer's or something of that nature. And Annie has this weird thing in her life where she has no memory of her childhood. She was in a car accident at the age of 11, and the car accident killed her little sister. And she has no memory prior to that. All she remembers is coming out of the car accident and everything that happened afterwards. So her whole adult life, she has been like meeting with therapists and different people to try to get back those childhood memories. So now that she's back home in her childhood home, some of these memories start coming back. So she starts working with people in the area and her grandmother and just different clues that she finds to try to get back as many of these childhood memories as she can and to figure out like what happened that made me forget my childhood. So it's a mystery / thriller where you have all these twists and turns about her trying to uncover this big childhood mystery. And I was so intrigued. I actually read this book in one day. I was so like, oh, I gotta find out what happened. And it's a really big twist at the end. Really, really good book, actually. I was super impressed with how much I liked this book. And again, I gave it 4 stars, and that's pretty high for a non-romance book for me. The next 2 books I read were the next 2 books in the Sophie Writes Brutal Birthright series, because, I'm trying to work my way through that series. I read the first couple books last month, and I read the next 2 this month. So the first one I read was Savage Lover. I gave this book 3.5 stars. This is the book between Nero and Camille. And Nero is known as kind of being the wild and crazy brother who lives for the thrill and beats to his own drum. And then on the flip side, you have Camille, who's the total opposite of him. She's very quiet, unassuming. She keeps to herself. She takes care of her dad and her brother and works in her dad's mechanic shop. There are some certain circumstances in life that put the 2 of them in each other's path. They actually already know each other. They went to school together, but there was no romantic relationship. They didn't really run in the same circles, but these circumstances happened that put them in each other's paths, and as we all know, they fall in love because it's a romance, and that's what happens in romance. However, I didn't love this book for a couple of reasons. It's not a bad book. Again, 3.5 stars is a solid read. I mean, we can all say a 3 star is bad. It's not. A 3-star read is a solid read. It's not I love it read, but it's a solid read. So it felt a little bit more like new adult romance than actual adult romance to me. Nero is a little bit of a jerk at the beginning of the book. He redeems himself, but he comes across a little bit jerky at the beginning. And I didn't feel like it was all that romantic. It was a very slow burn, and it took a while for like the romance between the two of them to really solidify, and it was very romantic at the end. Like once the romance hits, like it is romantic, but it takes a while to get you there. And so I just didn't love it as much as the other books in the series. Again, not a bad book, a really good book and a really solid addition to the series, but not my favorite book in the series. The fourth book I read was, again, the next book in the series, which was Bloody Heart, and this one I gave 4 stars. It was almost a 5-star read. This is a story between Dante and Simone. They meet when she's 18, and he's like 21 or 22, and her father is like an ambassador, I think, or a delegate, or something like that, to a foreign country. So he's in politics, and they're very like uppity, uppity, nose up in the air, kind of family, and appearances are everything. They have to be perfect at all times. And so basically they meet because her parents go into this event. She's in the car kind of like trying to collect herself before she goes in. And suddenly this man jumps in the car and drives off with her in it. So she gets like kidnapped, and the man who jumps in is Dante. And she's like, hello, you're kidnapping me. But they immediately have this like instantaneous connection, and they like each other. And so they start like sneaking around to meet each other, and they create this like real relationship. And a little bit of a spoiler here, but obviously her parents don't approve because his family's part of the mafia and they're like uppity politicians. And at one point, spoiler, she gets pregnant and she leaves town. So the rest of the story picks up 9 years later. She comes back to, I can't remember what she comes back for. It's like work or something. She comes back for some kind of work thing, I believe. And she ends up meeting up with Dante again, and the relationship rekindles and moves on from there. But the reason why I gave this one a 4-star, I love the story. It was very close, very, very close to a 5-star read for me. But I think the thing that bothered me the most about the book is I don't like the whole secret baby trope. I'm not a fan of the secret baby trope. I never have been. Probably never will be. There's a few books that do it really well, but they're very far and few. And I know that she's 18 at the time she gets pregnant. I remember being 18. I was stupid at 18. I'm just going to be honest. I was a dumb 18-year-old. I knew very little about life, and I cannot possibly imagine what it would feel like to be pregnant at 18 with a man whose family's in the mafia and obviously has dangerous ties. Like, I can't pretend to understand what that feels like, but at the same time, I felt like she gave up her baby very easily, and she was a little bit weak-minded. Like, she just did everything that her family told her to do, and I just didn't like that. But again, she was 18, and she was naive, and she had no life experience. I remember being stupid at 18, so, like, mixed feelings on it. That's why I took off a star, because I just kind of like, But, again, beautiful story. I loved the romance between the two of these, and so far out of all the books I've read, this is probably like one of my favorites in the entire series. That, and of course the second one, because Beauty and the Beast retellings are my jam. They are my jam. And then the next 6 books in the series are all the Fallen Men series by Giana Darling, and I love this series so much that I really want to just gush about this entire series in full. So I may actually, like, next week or something, do a video where I just sit and gush about the series, because I have so many things I want to say, and if I try to do them all in this wrap-up, I'm just gonna, like, be talking forever and spoil, because I can't say all the things I love about this series in detail without spoiling. So, I will tell you that the majority of the books that I've read in the series are 4- and 5-star reads. There are 6 books in the series. There are mostly 4- and 5-star reads. There is one book that's a 3-star read, and the only reason it's a 3-star read for me is because it was a little bit skeevy feeling to me. So, for those of you who don't know, her Fallen Men series is a motorcycle club series, and I've never really read a lot of Motorcycle Club because I don't care for it all that much, but I loved this series. And these are all age gap romances, which again is outside of my comfort zone because I don't normally like age gap romances. If you go and look at my least favorite tropes video, I mention this as being one that I don't like because most of the time they're done very poorly and it ends up being like some dirty old man trying to sleep with a teenager or something. And so I don't like it. But I have to tell you that Giana Darling does this so well, that most of the books in this series are so well done. They don't feel dirty. There's so much depth to her characters. Like, she's really good at creating characters that have a lot of emotional depth. And you buy into not only their story, but to the romance that she creates between the two main characters. So even though there's age gaps between a lot of these relationships, they don't feel as skeevy. And then part two of that is she has it's considered taboo, but honestly, there's only 2 books in the series that I think actually come across as taboo, and it's the first 2 books in the series. The first book in the series is taboo because it's a student-teacher relationship, and I think even though the boy is legal age, I think that that can be very taboo because obviously it's a student-teacher relationship, you know, Mary Kay Letourneau, anybody? So anyway, that's why I think that one is considered taboo. And then the second book, it is taboo. That's the book that I gave 3 stars to. And I will go ahead without giving you any details about the book, just tell you that the girl is 17 in the book. And I came very close to DNFing that book because I was like, my niece turns 15 in October. I will kill you. I will kill you. I'm going to hunt you down. I will hide your body someplace where it will not be found, and I will smile. I will smile in my mugshot. That's all I'm going to say about that. Because I'm going to kill somebody. But, not really, because I don't want to go to jail. But I will come close. I will think about it. I will have many fantasies about killing you. Anyway, it just felt wrong to me, and I know, the thing is like, if she was a year or 2 older, like, if this girl was in college, if she was 19, if she, 18, 19, it is the most romantic story I have ever read in my life. Like, I'm sorry, I'd be dropping my panties for Zeus Garo, too, because this dude's hot, and he is such a good man, and, it's so romantic. But she's 17, and I couldn't get my head past that. And I feel bad for that because I love the book. Like, literally, if she was a year older, I'd have been fine with it. And then at first I kept going like, did I miss a birthday? I didn't. She's 17. So it felt wrong, but at the same time, I really loved their love story. But I had to take a couple stars off just because of her age. But again, it's taboo. No one, it's considered, I mean, she calls it a taboo romance. It's not like anyone's hiding the fact that it's taboo. The rest of the books don't feel taboo, though. Like, they don't. There's age gaps, but, like, everyone's legal. It doesn't feel taboo to me. So, the rest of the books, I was totally fine with. No issues. Loved them. Great books. So, yeah. Love the series. I'm gonna, like, gush about them next week. I have a lot of hands going on today. Lots of hands. I talk with my hands. We're not even Italian. Everybody says it's an Italian thing. We're not Italian. I don't know. I don't know where I get it from. I talk with my hands. But anyways, love the series. Full book coming, book review, series review, whatever, coming next week at some point. Those are the 10 books that I read for the first half of the month. So, I did okay on my TBR list so far. I still have a lot to get through on the second half of the month, but 10 books for the first half of the month is, like, remarkable. That's a lot of books for me. Do you realize I could possibly read 20 books this month? What? Hold up, hold the phone. I might try it. I'm gonna try to hit 20, y'all. Let's see if we do it. All right, I am tired. I'm so tired. I'm getting slap happy. So I'm gonna get off of here before y'all think I'm nuts, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.